And I hope I say this right. You were only the second Latino voted statewide, right? Statewide election, to win a statewide election? Yes, he was. And it's a privilege and an honor to be able to introduce him to you this afternoon, Mr. Bustamante.
During 30 years of public service, I've been introduced a lot of different ways. As Gray Davis's mini-me, as Danny DeVito's twin brother. Paul was actually very kind. Thank you, Paul. I grew up in a very small town. The city of San Joaquin in western Fresno County. A little tiny town. In fact, I was the paper boy for the whole town. There was about 500 people there. It was all an agricultural community. Everything revolved around working for the different parts of agriculture. It was a place where everybody knew everybody. That was kind of the genius of that small town, where everybody got to know you. You had like 200 or 300 aunts and uncles. And the worst thing about the town was that everybody knew everybody and what everybody was doing. And it was in that setting where I grew up. My father was the only barber in town. He moved from a town, Dinuba, to this little town in order to be able to try to create a business for his family and be able to take care of his family. And my mom, very active in the community. She was kind of a welcome wagon person, unofficial, of course, in which when new people would show up in town, she would go and greet them and bring them some arroz and frijoles and some homemade tortillas and welcome them to the community. A lot of times there were people who didn't speak English, whether they were Indian or Mexicanos or whatever group. She would always invite them. And she became very active in the community. We were very engaged with the community groups, Comité Cívico, El Concilio, MAPA, and eventually I got very involved with Mecha. And it was in that time when we were looking around, I was watching my parents, and they were trying to get things going in that community, helping the community to prosper, trying to better get their kids educated, to get people moving, to bring in businesses, to try to gather people up, to be able to do other things, to become a real part of the overall community. Not just be in the town, not just be a resident, but to participate in every part of society, every part of it. Whether they were trying to get more Latinos in law enforcement, or they were trying to get more elected officials, or they're trying to help the business guys. Everybody was trying to become empowered. Kind of what this group is attempting to do. This one is focused on political empowerment, but it is a part of the overall empowerment that took place. I had something that happened to me right after I graduated from high school that changed my life. I got an internship in Washington, D.C. I was 19 years old, and I was offered, because my dad knew a guy who knew a guy who knew this guy who knew the congressman. And they said, how would you like to have your kid go to Washington, D.C. for the summer? So I had dropped out of community college. My dad called me up. I was working at the local fertilizer plant. I was making big money, man. I mean, back in 1975, I was making, no, excuse me, it was in 1972. I was making big money. I was making like about $8 an hour. I mean, I was welding. I was doing all kinds of stuff. I was bringing home some feria, man. I was bringing home some cash. Got my own car. Still living with my parents, but I was, I was making some money. My dad calls me up and said, you want to go to Washington, D.C.? Well, they had put me on this job breaking up cement with a jackhammer for 3 weeks. So I was thinking, Washington, D.C., breaking cement. I said, let's go to Washington, D.C. So I went, and it was an eye-opener. Bought this little tiny 2-year-old car, a little Toyota Corona. They don't even make them anymore. Drove across the country by myself with an ice chest full of chicken and tortillas and burritos and stuff to last me as far as I could go. I drove across the country and I saw things. I'd never been out of the state. I came back a changed person. I got a chance to meet senators and chief justices and listen to all of the major issues of the day. It was an incredible experience. When I came back, I knew that it was going to be in government that I did something. It was a changer, a life changer for me. When I came back, I started getting involved with the community politics because by then I'd gone from the city of San Joaquin to the big town, into Fresno, you know, where there was theaters and dancing and girls, and, you know, stuff going on at the college. And I got involved with the local politics. We started getting people by little things, voter registration. I went to, I don't know if people remember the Southwest Voter Registration Project, but I was one of the first people from California to go back in the 80s, early 80s, and got trained by Southwest to do voter registration. I ran the first statewide voter registration program in the state of California, opening up 28 different voter registration programs in 1 year, from San Isidro all the way up to Sacramento, San Francisco. My life started changing for me. People started talking to me about doing things. Not only was what my parents had instilled in me about doing something. My mother used to say, my hijo can do anything if he puts his mind to it. Just put your mind to it. And it was that empowerment personally in the family. And then the empowerment that took place from those community groups. And then it was being involved with a congressman and an assemblyman. And then them encouraging me to run for office. You know, Hillary once said it takes a village. You know, for me, it took almost an entire state. But the encouragement that I received came from groups. I remember when I first ran for office, I called up all the godmothers and all the godfathers. And I said, I cannot be successful in running for office unless I have all your support. Unconditionally, I have your support. So what I'm going to do is something that no one, I don't think, has ever done before. I'm going to submit to your approval. And if you decide to support me, I will run. If you decide to support somebody else, I will support them. I believe I'm the best candidate, but I will submit to whatever decision you make. A group like this gathered. All the godfathers and godmothers were there. Oh yeah, Victor Lopez from Orange Cove, you know, Venancio Gauna from El Concilio, and you know, the Perez's and the Sanchez's and all the folks were there. And they decided to support my efforts to run for the assembly. And it was a result of that moment with the community that empowered not only me, but empowered them. Because they decided, because they gave me their support, they decided that they were going to work for me in every single community, in every single neighborhood. They were going to gather up all of the friends and all the families, all of their compadres, all the vecinos, everybody. And were going to help me in that effort. You can have that kind of impact. You can launch people. You can have people who not only become a part of today's event, but will be a part of events that will be historic in nature for generations to come. Paul indicated that I was the second Latino, the first Democrat elected statewide. And when I was introduced at UC Merced, when I did the graduation speech, they said I was the only Latino elected statewide in the state of California in the 20th century. Now that's... And I'm wondering why? Why am I the only one? It's not because I'm better looking than everybody. It's not because I got more hair, because I'm smarter. I wasn't elected speaker because I was the smartest guy in Sacramento. I didn't get elected lieutenant governor because I was the smartest guy in California. Talk to me for a few minutes, you'll know that right away. What I did was I reached out to the various communities, to the various groups who had and felt the need, who felt like they were disconnected. And I said, if we work together, we can do things that no one ever thought of. I said, I want a family, a political family. Like when we were at the kitchen table. Everything happened at the kitchen table. I don't know what it's like in your house, but we sang there, we did games there, we argued there. We didn't just eat there. Oh man, we had some of the biggest political, arguments, everything. It was right there at the kitchen table. We knew who was doing what to who in the neighborhood and if they were liking it. And I wanted to be able to reach out to people from LA and San Francisco and San Jose and Sacramento and everywhere. I was from Fresno, but I wanted to reach out and touch and grab and hug and be able to embrace in a political family all the different people. And then to promote that agenda of empowerment. I was at a meeting one time and someone said, well, Cruz, you're always talking about how we need more Latinos graduating from college and more doctors and more lawyers and more... Well, why is it so important to you?